Welcome back to another episode of Susan Lopresti Wellness, Mind, Body, and Soul. This is the podcast where we explore the highs, the lows, and everything in between when it comes to a woman's life, her health, and all aspects of navigating the midlife landscape. I'm your host, Susan Lopresti, and today I'm very excited about my guest. Her name is Kayla Johnson. And I just want to give you a little bit of information about Kayla before she pops on. Kayla has always been interested in wellness, health, and leadership. And that was always a core part of her life. She has consistently dedicated her own personal fitness goals that have given her the desire to also teach, train, and motivate others to also achieve their goals. By being involved in the fitness industry for over 28 years, she's considered an expert in the industry. She believes in creating workout plans that are ever evolving and teaching her clients to find consistency where their health and their wellness is concerned. She's committed to breaking the diet culture and to have a broad knowledge base to teach clients how to properly fuel their bodies without feeling restricted. She's the founder and creator of many fitness entities and currently co owns an award winning national franchise, Star Cycle, in Santa Barbara, California. She's also lucky enough to be featured twice as an ambassador for Lululemon Athletica. Her passion in life is helping women crush their middle age. Let's face it, as we're getting older, our bodies change, and that's okay. She's here to coach you through it and to support you every step of the way. She embraces a life of balance and wants the same for her clients. Living a full life, having the results that you desire without diet and restriction is possible. And that's what Kayla would like to show you how to do. So without further ado, let's welcome Kayla to the podcast. Kayla, thank you so much for being here. First of all, tell me how you got started on this journey that you're on.
How I got started in the industry of
Yes.
Lamb. So I've been in the industry for 30 years. I'm 49 this year. This is my year of 50. I was born in
Well,
75.
you look very young.
Well, thank you. I work at it. I started in this industry when I was 18. Really, I was a dancer my whole life. And I really wanted to have a gym membership and I was broke. So I started teaching step aerobics. Did you ever take step aerobics?
Yeah. Yes.
I was the queen of step aerobics. I loved it. So I fell in love with the industry immediately. And back, in the early 90s, the industry from a group exercise perspective was so dancey
Yeah.
and so fun. So it was a natural fit for me. And honestly, I've lived all over the country. I've taught group fitness everywhere I've ever lived. The only time I've ever taken a few weeks off was after each pregnancy. I have 3 children, but in 30 years, I have never not done it. In fact, I still own a spin studio in Santa Barbara. So group fitness was always my first love. Got into the industry very early. It evolved as I grew older and had children. And I never really made a career of fitness, to be honest, until I got divorced.
Oh,
And I got
interesting.
divorced. I was new to Santa Barbara and got divorced. And I was like, well, I'm trapped in paradise. I better figure out what's going to come up next. So I'm so grateful. I usually learn things the hard way. This one, I didn't have to learn the hard way, thank goodness. In my hindsight, rear view mirror, right? I stayed in fitness and really just created a name for myself. Kayla Johnson Fitness was born then. Again, group fitness was always something I was doing, but then I started training private clientele. So about 18 years ago, I was started getting into more of the private sector of fitness where I could really instrument change for people. I mean, group fitness is fun and definitely elevate people's mood and you elevate their day, but really making change for people, which I was so passionate about, really happened when I was working with people one to one. Then this little thing called COVID happened. Did you hear
Yeah.
about that? Did you
Yeah.
hear
I,
about
I,
that
I
through the
vaguely
grapevine?
remember something a little bit.
No, besides being mad at the entire world, because I was dragging my spin bikes in and out of the studio. My private business went completely to Zoom immediately. Like we don't think we missed a week. And I just had this epiphany. I can articulate this now, by the way. At the time, I didn't know which end was up. My husband and I, my second husband, we've been married for 10 years. We have 6 kids together. So our house was like a frat house. I mean, everybody came home. You know how it was. You're just circling the wagons and just
Yeah.
trying to figure things out. But I never stopped working, right? So I went immediately to Zoom and I was like, whoa, this is wild. This is so effective. Like, I feel like I'm with you.
Yeah.
I can actually help people outside of Santa Barbara. And that's kind of how the whole thing with my online business took shape. I didn't know what I was doing at the time. Again, this is a hindsight conversation.
Right.
But at the same time, my body was changing. And I'm not somebody who's ever really struggled with their weight. Now, to be fair, I've always taken care of myself.
Yeah.
I've never done anything bad for me to excess. Never been a heavy drinker. I've never smoked. I've really taken such good care of myself, but I also have never struggled. And I was struggling. I mean, really struggling. And I didn't know I was in perimenopause. My mom didn't talk to me about my body changing and
It's not.
perimenopause. I mean, that generation is lost.
Yeah.
And I didn't know what was going on with me. I mean, I knew I was gaining weight. I knew my clothes didn't fit. I knew that I wasn't sleeping well and I was an excellent sleeper. Knew that I was crabbier than usual, but it was COVID. To be fair, like there were so many environmental things that were happening around me that I had no idea why the wheels were falling off because the wheels were falling off the entire world as far as I was concerned.
Right.
So as I investigated, as I do, and as I started talking to more people around me that were more of my age group, I was like, "Oh my gosh, is it even possible, dare I say the word, that I'm in perimenopause?" Felt like a death sentence because I didn't know anything about it. And I just started researching like I always do and just started really digging into like what's going on out there. And I didn't know anything about perimenopause, but because of all of that stuff that was done and all of those studies that were done telling all of us we were going to get cancer if we took hormones, somewhere in my subconscious, because I never studied it. I never knew anything. I didn't even know what the word perimenopause meant. I was afraid of it. I was afraid of hormones. I never thought that I would even consider it until I started doing the research. So, long story short, I started doing a ton of research. I started testing with people like, hey, let me work with you for 30 days. Let's uncover, and I just realized like we're dealing with the same 5 things, right? Weight gain, energy, sleep. And we were dealing with the same things over and over and over and over
Hot
again.
flashes, night sweat.
Oh, the whole thing. Yeah. And so, like, as I started straightening things out for myself, and as I realized what a lack of information there was out there for women, it's like once we were done with childbearing years, we were just kind of put out to pasture.
Yeah.
I just thought, what an opportunity. What an opportunity to get my hands on women and show them that they don't have to suffer. And that's really where a few years ago, it kind of just all took shape for me. And I just decided I was actually working with mostly men at the time. So that was a real paradigm shift.
Oh, yeah.
And if you look at the sector of private training, I mean, they're the ones who have to schedule it in, they can afford it. Like it was just kind of, and then once you start to, it's like when you have a red car, everybody has a red car. So it's like once you know what I mean? I had couple of men, it just seemed like my book of business was men. And I think they may have felt a little bit abandoned, but I was like, this is where I need to go. This is my heart space. And I have never looked back. And that's just kind of how I feel. Experiment with everything on myself first. I feel like I've really cracked the code. I've never felt better. So grateful. It was a real dark space, if I'm being totally transparent.
Yeah.
I really, really struggled for a very long time. And I'm very public. So in my spin studio, I'm on a stage, right? And there's always a reason for there to be a video taken or a picture. It's someone celebrating a birthday or a milestone. So I was literally being photographed and watching this journey. And it was hard to feel like you were out of control. And from a lifestyle perspective, I mean, I don't know anybody who does more of the things than me. I mean, I have a cold plunge and an infrared sauna in my backyard. Like I do all the things. I am weight training. I'm eating protein. I'm prioritizing fiber. I'm prioritizing sleep. This ring is going to be the death of me, by the way. The aura ring. I'm like, I don't need anything else to make me feel bad about myself. And now I have this ring telling me that I don't sleep well. But great.
I've
But like,
been thinking about getting one of those.
oh my gosh, it's gonna be the death of me. It's what we measure, we can change.
Yeah.
right? What we measure, we can change. And so I talk a lot about sleep with clients. And I thought, you know what? I need to start measuring my sleep. I was a baby sleeper until perimenopause, but I'm got the hormones on board. And so I'm fine now. But for me, it was really about the accountability of getting in bed early enough
Mhm.
because I am self proclaimed, I'm not a morning person. So I thought, you know what? I need to just, I mean, how do you be in fitness for 30 years and not be a morning person? Well, I'm not. Okay. I never grew into it. So I thought I really want to figure out how to get up and enjoy my morning so I'm not getting up at the last minute and running out the door. But I still have to make sure that I'm not going to bed at 11 o'clock at night and trying to expect my body, right? This whole like you can sleep when you're dead mentality doesn't work for us. And so I thought, well, here we go. I'm going to hold myself accountable and I'm going to measure it. And I'm not obsessing over it, but I'm getting like really low sleep scores.
For sure.
I'm having some issues with my sleep
No
scores.
one's perfect, right?
So anyway, so that's what I'm doing now. I'm like shouting it from the rooftops. I feel like I'm a concierge for women. That's how I feel. I have a 90-day accountability program where I bring women in and I teach them how to live the lifestyle without restriction, without dieting, without getting on that crazy merry-go-round. And for a lot of women, it's just about changing how they've approached their health and wellness for probably their whole lives. But then they have this extra layer of their hormones changing. It's a real, I mean, right?
Yes.
It's a real
So,
tremendous.
what did you do for yourself that now you're offering your clients? So a woman comes to you, she's 45, 46 years old. I'll describe the way I was at that age.
Okay.
I was about 35 pounds overweight.
Mhm,
I was having heart palpitations. My
mhm.
stomach looked like I was 6 months pregnant, usually by the end of the day, like it
Yep.
would grow during the day. Migraine headaches, forgetfulness, gut issues, night sweats, hot flashes, insomnia. I was happy 1 minute and crying the next. And so for me, I was going to conventional doctors at first who were telling me it was perfectly normal to feel this way.
Mhm.
And I'd say, well, could you give me something? What do you want to check my hormones and see where my levels are at? And oh, no, no, it'll pass. You'll get through it. And I kept thinking about my mom, and I didn't see her suffering the way I did. And I read a book by Suzanne Summers, and she talked about a functional medicine doctor in New York City. And I went to see her out of desperation. And basically, she got me on the right path.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. I went on bioidentical hormones,
Mhm,
completely changed my diet. One of the first things she said is you need to start taking magnesium to help you
mhm.
sleep. And it turns out I also had Hashimoto's disease and
Oh, okay.
celiac disease. So when you have a woman that comes to your practice or to
Mhm,
see you
mhm.
and they're in this boat, like the symptoms that you talked about that I had, where do you begin with them?
That's such a great question. So I always backtrack it to lifestyle. That's the foundation on which we build on. So we don't want to build a house on sand, right? We want to have a
Yeah.
really strong foundation. So I really go back to the lifestyle piece for women. So the women that and I attract all different types of women. I mean, right now I have women in their late 20s, which is so fun for me. So it's not necessarily the perimenopausal market that I'm talking to, right, on social media channels or whatever, but to get a hold of somebody so much younger
Hmm.
and to give them the education and to let them know that this is coming, right? That this is coming
Yes.
down. It's just like it feels so good to give that education. So anyway, for someone like, for example, our age, somebody at 45 who is coming to me with all of the things, is we get the lifestyle piece on board first. So I do a lot of goal setting with people, and a lot of it in the beginning is just uncovering like their history
Mhm.
and what they've been through because we all have a story and we typically, if we were here in the 80s and 90s, we definitely have a diet story, probably 100 of them.
Yes.
So it's a lot of intake, right, of people's information and their journey and how they got here, and then a lot of what they're doing currently. And basically, what I prescribe for people is we've got to figure out how to prioritize what we're putting in our mouth the part of what I do that I love so much that catches people off guard is they're waiting for the diet. They're waiting for the other shoe to drop. Like, what's a diet? What can I not eat? And I always say to them, there's nothing that's off limits. That's why you're stuck, is because you've always, and I'm not here to say that diets don't work. Okay. A diet, if you follow it, will work, but there's no shelf life,
No,
right? No sustainability.
no.
And that's my big purpose, is to, yes, allow people's body to let go of inflammation and to lose some body fat and to gain some muscle. But after they're finished working with me in 90 days, I want them to keep going on their journey.
Yeah.
I always tell my clients, you don't arrive on the doorstep of wellness. You don't knock on the door and come in and sit on the couch and kick your feet up and go, oh, I'm glad that's over. I mean, it's with us until we're dead,
Yeah.
right? So, like, you're on this journey forever and ever, amen. You never get there. And I think that this diet culture has just taught us that we're, obsessing over a number on a scale or getting into that pair of pants. And listen, I wanted to get back into my jeans too, to be really clear. And I'm a big fan of that. I'm a big fan of loving how you feel and loving how you look. But there's a much bigger picture happening here. And I'm feeling this at 49 years old, called longevity. Like, what deposits can I make, right? What investments can I make for 80-year-old Kayla? And so again, I'm a big fan of feeling good in your skin and feeling sexy and all of those things, but I think you can have both. And I think that we have to really look out for that. So a lot of people, I have to get their lifestyle on track. A lot of women, I've got to, like, we kind of have to take it back to the basics. And so I'm like, here's your protein cheat sheet and here's your fiber cheat sheet. And we're going to start tracking what we're doing. And the first thing I do is start tracking their protein and fiber.
Yeah.
For a long time, I just tracked protein, and then I realized that nobody was eating any vegetables or fruit because they were
Yeah.
so laser focused on protein. So I really focus on those. I focus on the macro of protein and the micronutrient of fiber, kind of in the beginning, just to give them a bit of a base.
Mhm.
I put them in my Kayla Johnson Fitness Academy so they have access to all of this information. And then we just start building a platform and building a base. A lot of people don't exercise that I talk to, and we start creating a weight training routine, getting people walking. I mean, it's really about who you're dealing with, but I want people moving.
Yeah.
And movement is not necessary. There's no answer, right? There's no answer to any of this, but movement is medicine. And I call it the gateway drug. So it's gonna lend to more positive behaviors, right? When we get somebody moving. So if somebody comes to me that's completely sedentary, I'm not gonna have them in the gym 5 days a week. That's just not realistic. It's not gonna stick. I'm a big fan of slow and low, getting people into a routine, which is why I love to work with someone for 90 days. None of this happens overnight, right? So I just like to get them moving, which again, what you monitor, you can change, right? So I would tell them, let's set a step goal. If we're not stepping at all, if we're not doing anything, let's set a really attainable goal at 4 or 5,000 steps, and then we keep building from there. I love watching the evolution of how this works with people, especially people who I call them babies, like my little toddlers who've never done this before, and really teaching them how to do a squat, how to do a lunge, how to do a push up, all those things that again, well, I mean, we have to have muscle mass to burn fat, right? Like if we want to actually change our body composition, we have to weight train, but we have to protect our bones and do all the things again, making all of those investments for that retirement, right? Literally and figuratively.
Yeah.
And then I talk to them a lot about hormones. And that conversation is always so funny which I love, because everybody has a story. Everyone has a story of what they think that conversation is. And it's one of my favorite parts of when I talk to somebody, like on a sales call, they come to me and I spend 45 minutes with somebody. Usually it's like a free consult. And anyway, I just love that part because I had it so wrong too. I had it so wrong. And I'm so glad that I was open to learning. I had it so wrong. And I was needlessly suffering, not on purpose, but I was needlessly suffering. So I act kind of as a concierge. MIDI Health is somebody that I'm actually just starting a relationship with. It's a telehealth company. I'm sure you've heard of them. I have another concierge physician who I love, 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 is a personal relationship of mine. If somebody wants just really singular care, she's a genius. She's been an OBGYN who's caring for women for the past 17 years. And then people I meet locally, of course, I have local resources, but anybody who's open to the HRT, to the hormone replacement therapy conversation, I'm like, none of it's the answer. None of it's the answer, but we've got this humongous orchestra of all of these instruments. And in my opinion, HRT is a pretty loud instrument. So we got to get all these things working together. So I did all of that. I did. The lifestyle piece was always nailed for me. I'm not a drinker. I was doing all the things. Went on hormones for almost a year. I
Now,
was
when you
getting
say hormones, are you talking about bioidentical hormones?
bioidentical hormones. Yes. Yeah. Thank you for the clarification. Yeah. So I was sleeping again and I wasn't trying to kill anybody. Okay. So those are positives. I love that line
That's
Legally
helpful.
Legally Blonde. I forget was she the Legally Blonde. Did you see that movie, Legally Blonde?
Yes.
I forget, it doesn't matter, but it always makes me laugh when I talk about, like, killing my husband. So, like, that was helpful,
Yeah.
okay, but it looked like I saw some big weight loss. Some people, it does move the needle on weight loss. I know people where it has moved the needle. I don't know how how if that affected
It
you.
it did. Oh, it helped. It helped.
Okay.
Yeah.
For me, I wasn't fitting in my clothes still. I was still the best way for me to describe it, well, first of all, I thought I was in somebody else's body because it happened like that. I felt like I was wearing a sweater. Like, not only am I somebody who's never had any fat on their abdomen, I was, like you said, like, I looked pregnant.
Yeah.
That's how I felt, and just thick, just not me.
Right.
So, I was actually a client of mine who I knew about Ozempic, to be clear. You'd have to be living in a hole to
Yeah.
not heard Ozempic, and I'm in the industry. So, I knew what Ozempic meant. And I never there was for me, there wasn't a stigma, I'll be honest. For me, I wasn't the trainer over here in the corner like, "Just do the work. What's wrong with you?" Not at all. In fact, I knew quite a few people who lost 70, 80, 90 pounds, and I was like, "Well, this is saving people's lives. This is wild." But never did I think for somebody like myself who was in perimenopause, who was probably insulin resistant, who needed a leg up, would be a candidate. In fact, that felt really embarrassing to me, if I'm being totally honest, to even consider it. But this is what's more interesting is, and I'll never forget this, is I was in Mexico with my family and a client of mine sent me a text message and she said, "I want you to listen to this podcast about this GLP-1 in connection to helping with dementia." And the reason why she sent that to me is I'm weird. I'm giving you a lot of information about Kayla right now.
That
I'm really weird about brain health.
me too.
Yet I'm very forgetful and I'm freaked out about it. And
Me
so
too. And
you
it
are,
runs in my family. I tested positive for the gene.
you did. I haven't even tested for that. Did you
Yeah.
really? So what does that mean for you?
Well, my doctor, because I see a functional medicine doctor, she said,
Yeah.
if you work on taking care of your brain, you may not get dementia. Now you know that you test positive for the gene. It runs in my family. Three of my dad's three sisters had Alzheimer's, and my mom's sister did as well.
Wow.
So we have to really be cognizant of what we're doing. So, of course, healthy fats, exercise,
Yeah.
word games. I'm always playing word games. I mean, I'm still working. I'm 65, but I have my part.
Are you 65?
Yeah, I just turned 65 in February.
Oh, happy birthday.
Thank you. So I'm always active and always doing things, but
Yeah.
I was a little bit more forgetful a couple of years ago, but I've been working on it now.
Mhm.
But it petrifies me because it's a horrible disease.
Oh, so you totally are speaking my language.
Yeah.
That's where I mean, I'm the person, and it happened to me over the weekend. I felt like I was getting punked. Like it was candid camera. They were telling me about a story about of something where I was, and I'm like, I don't have any idea what you guys are talking about.
Yeah.
I have no recollection of this memory. The restaurant, like the whole thing. I'm like,
It's
I have no
frightening,
yeah.
isn't
It's really, really frightening, and my kids have kinda turned it into a joke, but it's not funny.
Yeah.
It's and so that's how this GLP-1 conversation, if you will, came across my table because she was sending it to me for that purpose.
Wow.
But as I listened, it was wild. It was Dr. Tina Moore, and as I listened, she was telling my story. Ever has it ever happened to you before? You're listening to an expert and you're like, "Oh my gosh," you're like literally talking about me. This
Yeah.
is it's almost like an out of body experience. And she was talking about microdosing GLP-1s for that crazy perimenopausal 10, 15, 20 pound weight gain that and I was actually very terrifying listening to it because she's like, "If you don't nip it, it's not gonna go away. In fact, it's gonna get worse." So I I had a hard time, like, I was hearing it and I already knew her, so she was a trusted source. I was researching, I was doing all the things, but I was like, "Am I gonna go on Ozempic? This is crazy. This is crazy." So, I did have a stigma, right? I did. I didn't think that I did, but I did. And so, I started researching locally, and every physician I met with thought I was crazy. They're like, "I don't even know what you're talking about. Your BMI is so low. You need, I don't know, body dysmorphia help." Like, it was actually a terrible experience to go through what I went through because I felt horrible in my body
Mhm.
and there was nothing else I could do. So after lengthy research, I won't bore you with the story. It was a very kismet situation. It's a story for another day, Susan. But I found this amazing doctor and through a friend, and he was like, "Yeah, you can microdose this stuff. It comes compounded. You can take a really, really small amount. I know exactly what Dr. Tina is talking about, and we can move the needle." And I lost 20 pounds and I've never felt better.
Wow.
And I can almost promise you that had I not taken that leap, I would be exactly where I was. And like inflammation in my body came down.
Oh, yeah.
Like it just absolutely changed everything for me. So
How
that's a
is your brain health? Has it improved your brain?
I mean, it's only been a few months, it's not been that long.
Oh, okay.
I I think that the hormones have definitely helped, like, the brain fog.
Mhm.
I mean, I still can walk into a room and be like, "Okay, hold on a second. I know I came in here for something.
Oh, thank
I
God
just
it's
don't
not just me.
I just don't know what." But I still do that. So, like, that's a harder thing for me to measure because it's been going on for so many years. But, like, again, what we measure, we can change, right? So, like, I'm definitely paying attention to it. But again, making sure that people have the lifestyle piece on board before we do anything. We gotta really lay the foundation, and that's where I'm an expert. I'm an expert in making sure that you're getting all of your ducks in a row. And then beyond that, I'm a concierge. Like, for example, I'm partnered with a nurse practitioner who does a Dutch test, right,
Mm.
for me. So for women who wanna have their hormones tested in a lengthy fashion, I can send them to her. So I just really try to point people to the right direction to
Yeah,
make sure that we're covering all of our bases.
that's excellent.
Yeah.
So, is there anything else that you want to share before I say what are your final thoughts?
What
Anything
I
else
wanna
you want
share,
to talk?
I just wanna really if whoever's listening to this, I just wanna encourage women to keep asking questions and to be open-minded and just to pay attention to all the things that are happening out there. There's so many amazing resources that we have now. Again, like our parents' generation is just unfortunately got lost,
Yeah.
shuffle of all of this. They didn't educate any of us, at least from my experience. And you don't have to suffer. I'll be 50 this year. I feel so good. I am so grateful to be in such good health and to really focus on being strong, and not focus on being skinny and make those deposits
Yes.
for your 80-year-old self, right? It's the time to do it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because being skinny doesn't mean that you're healthy.
It's
And
not the goal. It's not the
no.
goal anymore. Heroin chic was out in like 1992. We need to move
Yeah.
from it. Yeah, I
Yes.
agree. Yeah. Yeah, and, like anything, I think Hollywood's kind of abused. There's a reason why Ozempic is getting a bad rap and why it makes such great headlines. I totally get it. It can be abused like anything, but
Yes.
used correctly.
Are there side effects to it, Kayla?
Nothing documented that's harmful at all, but
Good.
the poison's in the dosing. The poison is absolutely in the dosing, and the poison is in the compliance.
Yes.
So, if somebody is getting cranked too high on the dose, absolutely can have problems. And if they're not being compliant and, we can't control people. That's why I feel like that if anybody wants to take that journey with a
Mhm.
GLP-1, they need to do it with a health coach. They need to do it with somebody who's teaching them how to come alongside them and do the lifestyle piece at the same time. It's just too critical, right? It's too critical. So, but if you're doing all this fear mongering about muscle mass and listen, if you're not doing the compliance piece, it doesn't take a mental giant to figure out you're going to lose muscle mass.
Right.
If you're in a caloric deficit and you are on a weight loss journey and you are not prioritizing protein and you are not weight training, yes. But the fear mongering around it is just so crazy because it's absolutely untrue. But again, the poison is in the dosing and the poison is in the compliance. So those two things really have to be on board. And I work with great physicians who start women on very, very low doses. And it's just been phenomenal for people. My sister lost almost 80 pounds.
What?
Just watching the journey on it with women is, who've been doing all the things and just feel so stuck. And so I guess that would just be my message is that you don't have to be stuck. You just
And
have
you
to
don't need
look
a
out for help.
prescription from a
You
doctor or
you need a
oh,
prescription.
you do,
Mhm.
you
It's
do.
prescribed. That's why I link up with physicians.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
now anyone who's listens to this podcast and they want to work with you, you do still work online as well.
Oh, yeah. That's what I do. That's my love.
Oh,
Yeah.
great.
Yeah. Yeah, I run 90-day accountability programs. I'm fully virtual.
Okay, great.
Okay.
Okay.
Fantastic. Well,
It was
thank you so
great to
much.
meet you. I wish you
Thank
the
you.
best of luck with everything, and I'd love to have you come on again soon.
Oh, I would love that. Thank you for having me,
You're
Susan.
welcome.